despite the dozen other adults and children in the room. "Which one is it?" "Gooseberry," she said with a blush. "But you must have your first choice. Why, you are father's guest." "I am only a new employee of the Evening Chronicle," declared Charles. "Scarcely worth noticing." "Fie," George Hogarth said, settling his free hand across his waistcoat. "Ye are our most promising journalist. To be so accomplished at a mere 22 years of age gives me hope, my lad." "How exciting," Kate Hogarth said, eyes sparkling. "You must tell us what you've been writing about, Mr. Dickens." When the initial sounds of approval from her children had diminished, the matriarch, Mrs. Hogarth, a decade younger than her greying husband, slid the tart down the table to him. Charles regaled them with the tale of a recent parliamentary debate he had reported upon, complete with a falling-down drunk member of Parliament, a sneezing man-at-arms, and a speech that went on for 3 hours, until one poor elderly statesman, napping away, fell off the bench, after snoring so loudly that half the crowd was in hysterics. By the time he had finished his tale, Miss Hogarth had clutched his sleeve to keep herself upright through her convulsive giggles. He was proud of his tailcoat with its black velvet collar. His gaze moved between her fingers, sliding on the new fabric and the toothsome sight of the pie being sliced. He turned guiltily toward his host, his dining companion on the opposite side. His stares were improper, but such a tempting morsel had never yet been set before a young man on the rise. "What would you like, Charles?" asked Mrs. Hogarth. "One of the red ones, please," he enthused. "Miss Hogarth would love the green." "Same as her mother," Mr. Hogarth said comfortably. "She does make an excellent gooseberry." "Did you have a good Christmas, Mr. Dickens?" Miss Hogarth asked. Her Scottish accent was less pronounced than that of her parents. "Did you see your family?" Charles took his plate of tart. The red jam was tucked inside a triangle of pastry. "My father is out beyond Hampstead, but the rest of the family is nearby. My brother Fred lives with me, in fact. I'm to supervise his education. My mother has her hands full with my 2 sisters and the 2 youngest, both boys." "How nice to have family with ye," Mr. Hogarth said, as a child, perhaps 4 years old, climbed into his lap and burped loudly. "How old is Fred?" 14, Charles grinned. "We had an excellent meal for my mother's birthday just before Christmas, but mostly I worked through the 12 days. I write for more than one newspaper, and since I am not a family man, it seemed best to take all the work I could, and relieve those with little children at home." "Very decent of you, sir," Mrs. Hogarth said from the opposite end of the table, where she bounced a babe with enormous dark eyes on her knee. "But I am so glad you could be with us tonight." "Thank you for having me," Charles said, before turning irresistibly to the girl at his side. "Tell me, Miss Hogarth, when did you come here from Edinburgh?" "About 4 years ago," she said. "I don't seem to have lost any of the Scottish in my voice." "I find it charming," Charles declared. "It is easy to see that your family is a musical one, with the sweet tones of your voice and those of your sisters." "We should have music when we are finished," Mr. Hogarth said, removing the child from his leg and finishing his dividing of the tart. "But you have a long walk home, I know." "Where do you live?" Miss Hogarth asked as her father passed out the final plates. Charles watched the tarts spread across the table. He had nothing like this in his bachelor lodgings, and his mother didn't have the money to prepare such treats either, with her husband on the run from his financial difficulties. "I live in Holborn, at Furnival's Inn. It's a quiet, rather gloomy place. Nothing like here, with all the gardens and orchards surrounding your house. We live in close contact with our fellow man." "As do we," Miss Hogarth said, pulling at a red ribbon that had come untied on the sleeve of her green dress. "See how many brothers and sisters I have." "My family is not small either," Charles said. "But how wholesome is it to feed your family from your own plot?" "That is why I can make such lovely jam," Mrs. Hogarth said, "with Kate's help, of course." Her daughter's lips curved with her mother's praise, but then her eyebrows went up and her mouth rounded into shocked surprise. Charles heard the disturbance as well. It came from outside the snug house. What was that? He swiveled around toward the heavily curtained windows. "Sounded like a scream." Mr. Hogarth set down his knife and rose. Charles...